It's been a while since the last Airsoft Tops Series episode, huh? Well, let me fill you in on what we do here. This is the series that shows off just a few of the greatest airsoft replicas from all around the world. Hundreds of submissions are made, from the MilSim crowd to the Speedsoft crowd, to casual, nonchalant players to longtime enthusiasts looking for the next inspiration. And today we focus on one of my favorite platforms, the AK. Of course, I couldn't shove every build that was submitted into this edition, or else we would have a multi-hour long episode. So I have to make more episodes to show off the talent that some of these builders really have. You're gonna see a little bit of everything, both old and new. So let's just get right into this. This is the top 8 Custom Airsoft AKs, which is brought to you by Airsoft. I think this sponsorship is pretty fitting for this rendition, especially as I received dozens of great E&L setups, like this AK-103 from Ricky of Glasgow, Scotland. A Fab Defense stock, some Zenitco rails, an LCT hexagonal muzzle brake, and an ACOG added a little bit of oomph to this build. But I've got a lot more in store for you. And of course, this episode is sponsored by Evike.com, the place to get all your AK needs and more, with our exclusive link that you can find in the description down below. The more that link is used, the more videos we can do here on USAirsoft. But with all that said, let's get into this episode of the Airsoft Tops Series, starting with the 8th spot that was held by Manuzen of France. This one is short and sweet, but I guess this gives me another chance to say that SRU Precision is super cool. With their kits, you can change the look of pretty much anything. Even the most boring of M4s can look like this, so definitely check out SRU sometime. But moving on, to get what was once a CYMA CMO46 to fit into an SRU kit, Manuzen had to sand and Dremel several parts on this AK, since the SRU kit was never meant for anything other than a specific Tokimori AK. After that, this sci-fi Bullpup conversion came together nicely, and all around for about $350 or 288 pounds. I am interested in making a similar conversion with an SRU kit, because of the quick attention something like this gets. So I'm happy to see one taking a spot in this episode. So thank you, Manuzen. At number 7 now, we have one more Bullpup, but from a totally different mindset. This one comes from Southern Illinois, thanks to Graybeard. In my opinion, AKs make for the best apocalyptic bases. And as that style grows more and more, we see some stuff like this setup, named Project Dumpster Machine. This was built for 2 reasons. Graybeard wanted a whole new kit for a twice-a-year Fallout themed roleplay event called Fallout Kansas City, and since he grew up poor and sports like airsoft were out of the realm of possibility, this suited him well. Constructed from an old Echo 1 Red Star metal lower and gearbox with a burnt up trigger and stripped piston, he wanted to prove a point that trash isn't always trash. So he began to add to it with parts that no one could sell at the end of swap meets. The hop-up unit is rebuilt with JB Weld and ice cream bucket plastic, and everything else was sourced by actual dumpster diving. The barrel was a 74 style barrel that was missing pins, which Graybeard then cut way down before shortening the gas tube and moving the irons back. He then rethreaded the tip with a P90 muzzle brake that he found in the parking lot of his local field that had been driven over a couple dozen or 100 times. The black and yellow sections are plexiglass that he pulled from the dumpster at work before being heated and bent into shape. The foregrip is also a power supply handle from a decommissioned server, and most notably, the trigger has been mounted to the front in the form of a bike brake that was found in a scrapyard. The line runs over top and into the plexiglass cover and physically pulls the trigger, and the trigger reset is assisted by a hair tie that Graybeard stole from his daughter. Oh my god. All in all, the total price for this build was a whopping $30. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good for something that was basically built out of garbage. Graybeard hopes that once he gets a hit on a guy that has an $800+ kit, that it'll be evident that it doesn't really matter what you use to play airsoft. It's not about how much you spend. It's about getting out there and just having some fun. And with that humble lesson that we should all take to heart, we move along to our 6-spot holder, and this one is one of my favorites. From Sweden, we have Dankpunchairsoft and his LCT AKMSU. Right away, that's a great base rifle that you don't see very often at all. It's a pretty simple build with no internal mods, although Dankpunch suggests that you change all the internals inside an LCT. What this setup does include would be an LCT ZB18 mount, an AIM-O SRO red dot, and an Excavator oil filter as a suppressor to bring the total cost to around $700. And to get the final look, Dankpunchairsoft weathered the whole thing with some sandpaper, bluing liquid, and some Chinese tree oil. And that would be it for the 6-spot. Now, I've seen a lot of oil filter setups. I mean, even for a time, I would almost say that it became a meta thing to do to the AK. But I really like this one, especially since it's on a rarely seen model. However, that's 3 builds down, but we continue along with some tactical stuff, starting at the 5th spot. It's an ever-changing AK from Belgium that's owned by Korsakov Airsoft. Built on a classic VFC AKS-74UN, this setup has eaten up over $1,500 in parts and labor, and it's been a testbed for all sorts of parts, so that the final result would be exactly what its owner excels with. A lot of AEG internals have been swapped in and out, but Korsakov Airsoft looks to be using a Polarstar F2 Fusion engine with a 6.02 inner barrel, and a Bugatti Pro Nebo, and SHP5 flat hop bucking. For the outside, we have Zenitco B18, B11, and B12 rails, a Zenitco PT1 stock, a Zenitco PK6 grip, and RK3. Then we have a Voms Palad P1 Avis optic and Durchlang flash hider. I am destroying some of these names. But with these episodes, I try to include the parts list in the description, so if you want an even deeper dive into the parts on some of these builds, then go ahead and check out the description. Now, I know some people don't like tactical AK setups, but you really should have expected a bunch of them to be submitted for a show like this. But I, for one, love a little bit of everything, hence why this limited edition Arcturus PP19 is on my favorites list in my collection. You gotta keep an open mind. You'll have a whole lot more fun that way. There will be more classic AK looks in this episode for sure, but I think this was a great way to break into the top 5. So thank you, Korsakov Airsoft, for your submission. With 4 more AKs left to run down, I just thought I'd tell you that I intend to do more episodes of the Airsoft Tops Series in the future. This is one of my favorite series, and the response that these episodes get is always uplifting. So if you would like to take part in a future episode, then follow us on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram does whatever it possibly can to make sure that people can't follow us. So if you ever try to look us up where the green logo is just USAirsoft, I think we have like 30,000 followers at the moment. The number always goes up and down, mostly down, but that's enough about Instagram. Just go ahead and follow us there or on Facebook. We would really greatly appreciate it. That's where I announce submission polls, so you can make your submissions for these episodes, event information, and general updates for the USAirsoft channel. But with that said, let's crack into the 4th spot. This would be the best painted submission in my opinion, and the first submission from Ireland in a long time. This is a $1,000 MilSim ready rig that is happily throwing .30 gram BBs. Right away, I can tell you that this is used a lot at big events, and the parts list is really thorough. Put together to make use of a non-DMR AEG's max effectiveness, this LCT was equipped with a Prometheus 6.02 Type bore inner barrel and a Lonix AK hop unit with a modified tech flat hop bucking and nub. And for electronics, Kudos Airsoft added a gate-tied MOSFET and converted the connector to Dean's. Good choice. This should erase the shortcomings of the old school LCT internals and add on a lot more range. Then for the exterior look, aside from the custom Cerakote, we've got a 5KU AK to M4 stock adapter, a Magpul CTR stock, an Element medium cheek riser, an LCT PK265 pistol grip with custom stippling, a Manuzen remote dual switch, and a Manuzen PEC 15. Then there's a 5KU Metal Strike hand stop, an LCT PK33 X47 selector, PTS TPM AK mid-cap magazines with maple super feed springs, a battle axe gunfighter style KAG handstop, a Hephaestus GHK AK series magwell, a Combat Union Bambushka extended charging handle, a Daniel Defense QD sling mount, a Wadson M600C Scout Light, it's a Surefire clone, an Elcan Spectre DR, also a clone, and finally an LBX 2-point sling. Man, that's a list. I've got to admit that I've added a few of those parts to my next wish list from Evike.com because you can never have enough AK accessories. But for $1,000, I'd say that Kudos Airsoft put together a seriously nice build. Let me know if these more tactical setups excite you, or if you're more of a classic look kind of person. This still looks really, really good. Kudos Airsoft, thank you very much for your submission. Of course, wood furniture and a total lack of rails like Geo's Franken AK that you see here has a lot of character. Then we have stuff like this Apocalypse build from Brewer Workshop. What do you think of it? Because it's what's taking the third spot. Dubbed as My Old Krinkhoff, the style is post-apoc as you can see. The base model was a 13-year-old D-Boys RK10S with all zinc and aluminum parts changed for forged steel. The main goal here was to keep the build cost as low as possible, so Brewer welded and crafted as many parts as he could himself. This setup changes a bit now and then, from having a mock oil filter suppressor or an upper handguard shield made from a piece of scrap metal from a PC power supply. But the handmade craftsmanship extends to the CNC steel, DIY magwell flare, sling point, and reinforced iron rod folding stock. And even the charging handle that you can see is made from an empty cartridge that was spit out from a real AKS-74U. The rust may be fake, as it was formed by chemicals, but the wood lower handguard was burnt and cured with linseed oil. The Soviet bandages and tourniquets add a little bit of comfort, and the whole surface was burnt and cooled back in used motor oil. And then finally a small one-slot rail piece was welded to the compensator to add on a flashlight later. Now, even though this might look neglected or a rough setup, this was actually made with a lot of care and a lot of handmade parts. It's not falling apart, and it's already dishing out acceptable performance, so there's no need to overhaul the internals just yet. So for the best post-apocalyptic build submitted, I thank you, Brewer's Workshop. There was, of course, a lot of stuff submitted for this episode of the Airsoft Tops Series, and I can clearly see that people were really excited for this, so I do intend to make more episodes in the following weeks and months. Feel free to share your episode ideas in the comments if you would like, but I'm thinking of an overall best custom gas blowback show. Or a fan submission special. I don't know. However, now that we're at the top 2 spots, we'll see who truly has the best AK setup. Is it something tactical and modern, like this gas blowback GHK AKS74U by a collector named Christian from Dallas, Texas? Or is it any of his other GHKs for that matter? Or does the top spot go to the ever so intricate Real Fake Guns with his GHK AKM? That is pretty much a real Type 56 at this point. You know, come to think about it, there was a lot of great gas blowbacks in this show. Anyway, tactical AK stuff is still on the rise, so Christian's collection is probably being drooled over by a lot of GunTuber subscribers. As for the AKS74U itself, Chris went all out with the Zenitco parts, as you would assume. He's got a PT1 stock, a PK3 CNC grip by Acero Dynamics, an RP1 charging handle, and a Zenit PK6 grip. Then comes the Hephaestus stuff, like the steel trigger, extended magazine release, magwell, the M-LOK rail and gas tube, Hephaestus steel firing pin, steel sear, steel auto lever, steel hammer, steel bolt, steel outer barrel, and a steel Hephaestus trigger. Then to wrap up this build, Christian added a WNS full travel kit and comboed that with a rapid fire kit, a Bowmaster feed ramp, a TNT APS hop up and TNT APS 245mm inner barrel with an APS bucking, an RE-Tech end pass, and a CYMA AK optic mount with an EOTech on top, with an Atlas PBS suppressor at the muzzle's end. A perfect muzzle device for any AK-74U build, might I add. And with all this, Christian also has tubs of magazines and spare parts to last him over 5 years if he needed them. Add all this together, and you're looking at about $5,500 to $7,350 in gear. Whew. On the other side of the world now, Real Fake Guns may have dominated this countdown with another beautiful piece, his Type 56 made from as many real parts as he possibly could get. This kind of stuff is the whole reason why some people say that Real Fake Guns shouldn't be allowed to submit for these shows. I've seen comments saying that no professionals should be able to claim a spot, as if they make the rules for my show. But as for this GHK AKM, the conversion into a Chinese Type 56 required a lot of searching to get all the authentic parts this builder needed. So here's the real parts list. Front sight base assembly, spiker bayonet, gas block with sling loop, cleaning rod from Saigon, Vietnam, lower handguard retainer, lower handguard, upper handguard, gas block, rear sight block, rear sight, Vietnamese handmade Type 56 top cover from Hanoi, fire selector, trigger guard, mag catch, pistol grip, now replaced with another from Vietnam, pistol grip screw, stock, sling, and for a big bonus, Real Fake Guns has a real 40 round mag converted to fit an airsoft mag well. That is so freaking cool. For the actual airsoft parts, a Real Fake Guns custom 3D printed front trunnion with a serial number and factory 66 markings was added. That's not easy. Then a steel outer barrel, machined to fit a real barrel by MOFFA, was reblued and thrown in, along with the smooth Type 56 steel barrel tip machined by MOFFA as well. The bolt carrier was filed, reshapen, polished, smoothed, and chromed to match the real Type 56 exactly. Then everything was weathered to match the used real parts, but only an end pass was added to the internals list. Of course, this was mostly put together for the love of the Vietnam War era, and since a real sword Type 56 just wasn't good enough for this master builder. It's also extra fun having parts from his friends and from research trips to Vietnam itself. This is a true passion project, just like nearly everything else in the Real Fake Guns collection. And please go check out this builder's amazing YouTube channel. I love pretty much everything that he's got. Just this build alone, and the other Type 56 he has, have a lot of character and a lot of history that no other AK manufacturer in Airsoft can ever match. But with that said, that would be it for this countdown. I want to thank every single person who submitted for this show and supplied all the information that was needed to put all this together. I do want to make more of these episodes, so like I said, feel free to follow USAirsoft on Facebook or Instagram so you'll know when I open polls for submissions. And please hit the like button if you really enjoyed this matchup for the best AK in show. A thank you goes to ENL Airsoft for sponsoring this episode of the Airsoft Tops Series. And thank you Evike.com. Thank y'all so much. But until that next video drops from the city of San Antonio, this has been Scott Hollenbeck. And I will be sure to see you all next time.